Why do most people over 50 have less than $20,000 saved? Why does someone making $60,000 a year for 30 years end up with nothing? Why did you work your entire life and still can't stop worrying about money? The answer isn't what they told you, and you're not going to like it. There's a number that separates people who die, worried about bills, from people who die in peace. $20,000. Not because 20,000 solves your life, but because what happens psychologically when you cross that number changes everything that comes after. And the reason you never got there has nothing to do with how much you earn. Let me show you the brutal math nobody wants you to see. If you save $400 a month for 1 year, you end up with $5,000. You sacrificed an entire year of your life, brought lunch to work, skipped vacations, drove the old car, and all you have to show for it is $5,000. This is where most people quit, because they do the wrong math. They think if 5,000 took 1 year, then 100,000 will take 20 years, and 20 years is too long, so they spend the 5,000 and go back to zero. That thinking is exactly backwards. And that mistake keeps more people poor than any economic system, any unfair boss, any rigged game you want to blame. The first 20,000 is where everything changes, not because 20,000 is a magic number, but because of what happens psychologically and mathematically when you cross that threshold. Psychologically, you stop feeling like someone who can't save money. Your identity shifts. You have proof you can do this. There's a cushion that lets you sleep at night. Options you didn't have before suddenly appear, and you're not one car repair away from disaster anymore. Mathematically, your money starts earning in ways you can actually see. Even a modest return on $20,000 generates $1,000 to $2,000 a year without you lifting a finger. That's not life-changing yet, but it's visible, it's real, and it compounds. Here's the part people drastically underestimate. The earnings from your money start to approach, then match, then exceed what you can generate from saving alone. At 1,000 saved, a 10% return gets you $100, which is basically nothing. At 20,000 saved, that same 10% return generates $2,000, which is almost half your annual salary savings. At 50,000 saved, that's a $5,000 return. And now your money is contributing as much as you are. At 100,000 saved, that's $10,000. And now your money is working harder than you are. This is the big secret of wealth. The first part requires almost entirely your sacrifice. You doing all the work. Your money contributing almost nothing. But there's an inflection point where your money starts to carry more and more of the load, and you can ease up a little. Most people never reach that transition point because they quit during the hardest part. They quit when they're doing all the work and the money they're saving isn't earning anything. They look at the math and can't imagine how this slow, steady growth could ever turn into real wealth. But the math doesn't lie. The curve is exponential. The early part is flat, the later part is steep. And nobody gets to the steep part without first surviving the flat part. Mental mistakes trap people in poverty, and understanding them is worth your time. The first mistake is impatience. Successful investing requires a lot of patience and delayed gratification, and if you didn't inherit that capacity, you'll have to work very hard to overcome it. Most people can't sit still, can't wait. They see neighbors buying boats and taking cruises, and something inside them breaks. The feeling of missing out becomes an obsession. So they spend their seed corn to feel better today and guarantee their poverty tomorrow. The arithmetic of patience is brutal. In the early years, you're saving $400 a month and watching your account grow in tiny increments while the world around you screams to spend. You're bombarded with ads thousands of times a day. Your co-workers are talking about their new cars. Social media shows carefully curated images of people living lives you can't afford. And something in the human brain interprets all of this as evidence that you're falling behind, that your sacrifice is pointless, that you should just enjoy life now because tomorrow isn't guaranteed anyway. This is where most attempts at wealth building fail, not because of bad investments, not because of market crashes, but simply from the inability to wait. The person who could have been wealthy at 60 is broke at 60 because they couldn't tolerate being less flashy than their neighbors at 35. Mozart became the most famous composer in the world, creating music that will be played for centuries. Yet Mozart was deeply unhappy most of his life for one simple reason. He always spent more than he made, no matter how much he earned. And he died in misery. Here's a man with gifts that come once a century, earning substantial sums for his time. And none of it mattered because the money went out faster than it came in. If Mozart couldn't get away with that behavior, what makes you think you can? The uncomfortable truth is, your income level has almost no relationship to building wealth. High-income people frequently go broke because they simply raise their spending to match or exceed what they earn. A person making $50,000 who saves $5,000 a year will end up wealthier than someone making $200,000 who saves nothing. The arithmetic doesn't care about your title or your tax bracket. The second mistake is envy. The world is not driven by greed, it's driven by envy, and I've watched envy destroy more financial plans than any market crash. You have a good plan, you're saving money, you're making progress. Then you see someone getting rich faster than you. Suddenly your plan feels inadequate, so you start taking stupid risks trying to keep up, spending money to prove you're not falling behind, destroying yourself, trying to match people who might also be destroying themselves. What makes envy particularly dangerous is that it attacks people who are actually succeeding. You don't need envy to destroy someone with no plan and no discipline. Those people will fail anyway. Envy reserves its worst damage for the person who was doing everything right, until they looked sideways and saw someone passing them. The neighbor with the new car might be financing it at 18% interest. The coworker who just bought the bigger house might be one step from foreclosure. That friend who seems to be getting rich quick on speculative investments might be about to lose everything. You don't know their real situation, but envy doesn't care about reality. Envy only sees the surface, and the surface is designed to deceive. There will always be someone getting richer faster than you, and that's not a tragedy. The tragedy is letting that fact derail your own progress. Envy stands out as a really stupid sin because it's the only one you could never have any fun at. At least with gluttony, you get to enjoy the meal. With lust, there's at least some pleasure involved. But envy just leaves you sitting there feeling miserable about someone else's success, getting nothing out of it, but suffering. It's a complete waste of emotional energy. Think about what envy actually accomplishes. It makes you feel terrible. It causes you to make bad decisions. It undermines your satisfaction with your own progress, and it gives you absolutely nothing in return. Every other vice offers at least some temporary pleasure, some momentary satisfaction. Envy only brings pain, and you inflict it entirely on yourself. Envy is something I got over in my own life many years ago. Nobody envies me, and I don't care what others have. That shift in mindset alone is worth millions of dollars over a lifetime. When you stop comparing yourself to others and start comparing yourself to your own plan, your own goals, your own timeline, the psychological pressure disappears. You can watch someone else get rich without feeling diminished. You can stick with your strategy without questioning every decision. You can enjoy your own progress without constantly comparing it to someone else's highlight reel. The third mistake is self-pity. Envy, resentment, revenge, and self-pity are disastrous modes of thought. And self-pity gets pretty close to paranoia, which is one of the hardest things to reverse. You do not want to go there. Anytime you find yourself engaging in self-pity, no matter what the cause, stop immediately. Your child could be dying, and self-pity isn't going to improve the situation. It's only going to paralyze you and make you weaker, and weakness is not what builds wealth. Inversion is one of the most powerful mental tools for getting rich, and almost nobody uses it. Most people think about success by asking what they need to do to get rich. But that's the wrong question. The right question is, what would guarantee staying poor forever? And how can I avoid those things? An old saying captures this perfectly. All I want to know is where I'm going to die so I never go there. What guarantees financial failure? The answers become obvious when you bother to list them. Spending more than you earn guarantees failure. Saving nothing guarantees failure. Taking on high-interest debt, especially credit card debt, guarantees failure. Because once you're in debt, getting out is hell. You can't make progress. You're paying 18% interest. Being unreliable, showing up late, breaking promises, and not finishing what you start guarantees nobody will want to work with you, promote you, or invest in you. Heavy drug or alcohol use impairs judgment and reduces earning capacity. Feeling sorry for yourself makes you passive when you need to be active. Acting on envy makes you take stupid risks and spend money you should be saving. After you identify all the behaviors that guarantee failure, the strategy becomes simple. Don't do those things. A notable advantage over time comes from consistently trying not to be stupid instead of trying to be very smart. People are trying to be smart. All I'm trying to do is not be an idiot. But that's harder than most people think. A principle that seems obvious but is almost universally ignored deserves attention here. Spend less than you earn. Always put something aside. Put that money in a tax-deferred account and over time it'll start to earn something. It's so obvious. The simplicity is striking. Spend less than you earn. Invest wisely. Avoid toxic people and activities. Keep learning your whole life and practice a lot of delayed gratification because you prefer life that way. Do all those things and success becomes almost certain. Don't do them and you're going to need a lot of luck. My grandfather was a federal judge at a time when there were no pensions for judges' widows, which meant that if he didn't save part of his income, his wife would end up in poverty after his death. Being the kind of man he was, he spent less than he made his entire life and left my grandmother in comfortable financial shape. An old verse comes to mind often. Mine were troubled and mine were steady, so I was prepared when trouble came. That's what having a financial reserve does for you. It prepares you for when trouble comes, and trouble always comes. You need to understand something about leverage, because this is where smart people destroy themselves. There are 3 ways a smart man can go broke: liquor, ladies, and leverage. And leverage is the worst of them. The pattern repeats over and over. A person accumulates some wealth and then gets impatient, wanting to speed up the process. They borrow to invest, buy stocks on margin, take debt to acquire real estate they can't actually afford. For a while it works beautifully because leverage magnifies the gains and they feel like geniuses. Then something goes wrong. The market drops, a tenant doesn't pay, an unexpected expense hits, and suddenly leverage magnifies the losses. A margin call comes, forcing them to sell at the worst possible moment, and everything is gone. There's always a small chance of catastrophe when you own securities pledged to others. Warren and I have always been leery of buying stocks on margin, and that's not cowardice, that's arithmetic. The expected value of using leverage might be positive, but the risk of ruin makes it not worth it. Getting rich only needs to happen once, not 4 times. The beauty of building wealth slowly is you only have to do it once. Getting there without leverage and without catastrophic risks means nobody can take it away from you. But trying to get there faster by borrowing can force you to start over multiple times, and each restart means less time for compounding to work because you're getting older. Earning power deserves discussion because saving money is only half the equation. The safest way to get what you want is to try to deserve what you want. That's the golden rule as applied to economics. You want to deliver to the world what you would buy if you were on the other end. To earn more, you need to become more valuable. Develop skills people are willing to pay for. Become reliable, experienced, and competent. And learning must be a continuous process. There are people who go through life who aren't the smartest, and sometimes not even the most diligent, but they're learning machines. They go to bed every night a little wiser than they woke up, and over the long run, that makes all the difference. Acquiring wisdom is a moral duty, not something you do just to advance in life. Lifelong learning is mandatory. Without it, you're not going to do very well. You're not going to get very far in life based on what you already know. There is no wise person over a broad domain of knowledge who didn't read all the time. None. Zero. The amount Warren Buffett reads would surprise you, and the amount I read would too. My children make fun of me because they think I'm a book with a couple of legs sticking out. If you're sitting there with a low salary thinking you're stuck in a bad situation, understand this. Your salary today won't be your salary forever, but it will be your salary forever if you stop learning. Keep learning and adding value, and your earning power increases. And as your earning power increases, your capacity to save increases. And as your savings increase, compound interest kicks in. Circle of competence is an important concept for both your career and your investments. Figuring out your own aptitudes is critical. Playing games where other people have the aptitude and you don't means you're going to lose, which is as certain as any prediction you can make. Figuring out your edge is essential, and playing within your zone of competence is mandatory. Thinking about where I have an edge over other people is my way of working. Playing in a game where other people are smart and I am dumb is not my approach. I look for a place where I am wise and they are idiots. Knowing the limits of your own competence is critical, and knowing when I can't handle something is something I do very well. Most people have a very small circle of competence and pretend it's much larger than it really is, which leads them to make investments they don't understand, take jobs they're not suited for, and start businesses in industries they know nothing about. Then failure surprises them. Stay inside your circle. Master what's in it, and slowly, over time, expand it through learning. It's worth examining what happens after you cross the 20,000 threshold, then 50,000, and finally 100,000. Getting the first 100,000 from zero, with no starting capital, is the hardest part of building wealth. Getting the first million is the next big hurdle, and it requires consistently spending less than you earn. Getting rich is like rolling a snowball, and it helps to start at the top of a long hill. Starting early and trying to maintain that growth over a long period is the strategy, and living a long life helps. I built my wealth through a combination of legal work, real estate development, and eventually investment partnerships. The partnership with a friend on real estate projects started when we each put in $100,000 on our first deal. And those apartments sold at a profit that netted $500,000 for each of us. In all, there were 5 real estate projects that came and went, and then I stopped. At the end, the total accumulated from just those deals was $1.4 million. And within a few years, juggling law and real estate, the total reached $3 or $4 million. The point isn't that you should do exactly what I did. The point is that once you have capital, opportunities appear that are invisible to people without capital. Partnership in deals becomes possible. Investing in businesses opens doors, and taking calculated risks that someone living paycheck to paycheck can't even consider becomes an option. Capital attracts opportunities, and opportunities generate more capital. The rich get richer, not because the system is unfair, but because having money allows you to make more money. Your job is to get enough capital to enter that virtuous cycle. And 20,000 is where that cycle starts to become visible. Patience is where most people fail, even after they start accumulating capital. The big money is not in the buying and selling, but in the waiting. Most people can't wait because they want to trade, want to feel active, want to believe they're doing something. Constant buying and selling means paying fees and commissions, paying taxes on short-term gains, and interrupting the compounding process that would have made them wealthy if they'd simply sat still. Sitting still means paying less to brokers and listening to less nonsense. And if it works, the tax system gives you an extra 1, 2, or 3 percentage points per year. That small extra percentage earned by doing nothing might not seem like much, but over decades it's the difference between comfortable wealth and life-changing wealth. The first rule of compound interest is never interrupt it unnecessarily. Every time you sell a winning investment, you pay taxes. Every time you pay taxes, your capital shrinks, reducing what's compounding. Every time you have less capital compounding, you end up with less money at the end. This all comes down to simple arithmetic, but people keep getting it wrong because they can't sit still. Maybe you're thinking about something right now and need to work this out. You might be thinking, all this sounds reasonable, but the world has changed and it's harder now than it used to be. You're right, it is harder now. Competition has increased, and the opportunities from decades ago don't exist in the same form today. Getting rich will be harder for the current generation because there's more competition and you need to keep getting better or you'll lose. But harder doesn't mean impossible. Harder just means working harder and smarter. The fundamental arithmetic of wealth hasn't changed, and the effect of compound interest still works the same way. The psychology of success hasn't changed either. And patience, discipline, and continuous learning still work. The people who will build wealth in this generation will be the ones who accept that it's harder and work for it anyway. They won't sit around complaining that previous generations had it easier. They'll focus on what they can control and execute. The relationship between Warren Buffett and me illustrates something important about success. Figuring out early in my career which people I admired was the first step. I maneuvered skillfully without criticizing anyone, so that I ended up working entirely under the supervision of people I admired. Your results in life will be far more satisfactory and far better if you work with people you genuinely admire. When I met Warren Buffett in 1959, immediately recognizing that here was someone exceptional was natural. We shared ideas about business, finance, history, and investing, and we both shared this fundamental belief that the world works better when you build relationships where everyone wins. Learning early that the way to get a good partner is to be a good partner was something we both did. These are very old-fashioned ideas, but they worked wonderfully well. Warren convinced me to leave law as soon as I could, which had significant influence on my life. I already had in mind becoming a full-time investor, but he encouraged me to do it. Working hard for many years to build a career, as I did in law, and then deliberately destroying that career to start something new isn't easy. That would have been much harder without Warren's influence. The lesson here is simple. Look for people who are going where you want to go, who operate on principles you respect, and figure out how to be useful to them. Your network isn't about collecting business cards. It's about building genuine relationships with people you admire, where both sides benefit. That's how real opportunities arise. You need to understand what happens after you accumulate wealth, because without that understanding, the purpose of the whole process might not be clear. Like Warren, I also had a great passion for getting rich. It wasn't because fancy cars attracted me, it was because independence did. I wanted it badly because having to send invoices to other people seemed undignified to me. I'm not sure where that idea came from, but it existed. The point of getting rich isn't accumulating possessions. The point is freedom, not needing other people. Having the ability to make your own choices without asking anyone's permission. Being broke means accepting whatever job comes along, tolerating whatever conditions exist, unable to say no because you need the paycheck. You're not living your life. You're living the life your financial situation allows. Having capital changes everything. Saying no becomes possible. Waiting for the right opportunity instead of grabbing the first one that appears becomes an option. Taking calculated risks, riding out difficult periods without panic, and thinking long-term instead of scrambling for short-term solutions become possible. This is what changes after 20,000, not just the math. Your whole relationship with life starts to shift. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the author of your own story. Knowing what not to do with growing wealth is important because many people get it wrong right at the moment of success. Don't start showing off as soon as you have some money, because the people who build lasting wealth keep their expenses relatively stable even as income rises. Every dollar you don't spend is a dollar that multiplies. And every dollar spent on luxury is a dollar gone forever. Don't listen to people selling complex financial products because the financial industry profits from complexity while you profit from simplicity. The more complex a product is, the more likely it benefits the seller instead of you. Don't check your investments every day because the more you look, the more likely you are to do something stupid. Markets fluctuate. That's what they do. If you can't handle a 20 or 30% drop in your portfolio value without panicking, you shouldn't be in stocks. Don't try to time the market because the wise bet heavily when opportunity arises. Bet big when the odds are in your favor and don't bet the rest of the time. But that's different from trying to guess when markets will go up or down, which nobody can do consistently. Just find good investments and hold them. Don't over-diversify, which might sound like strange advice, but if you've done your research and found something you understand deeply, you should invest in it meaningfully. Warren once said he could improve your ultimate financial welfare by giving you a ticket with only 20 slots on it, representing all the investments you'll make in your lifetime. And once you punch the card, you couldn't make any more investments. Under those rules, you'd think carefully about each decision, being forced to focus on what you really thought about, and you'd do much better. If you want to retain a single message from everything I've told you, here it is. If it's trite, it's right. And all those old-fashioned virtues work. Spend less than you earn, work hard, keep learning, be reliable, be patient, avoid debt, avoid envy, avoid self-pity, find good partners, stay within your circle of competence, don't do stupid things. None of this is complicated, but all of it is difficult. The difficulty isn't in understanding what to do, it's in actually doing it, day after day, year after year, when progress is slow and temptations are constant. The first 20,000 will be hard, and you'll wonder if it's worth it. The temptation to spend the money on something that makes you feel better today will come, and you'll watch other people who seem to be living flashier lives, even though they're on credit. Ignore all of it and stay focused, because when you cross 20,000, something starts to shift. You have proof you can do this. Your money starts earning enough that you can see it, and the psychology of scarcity starts to dissipate. Then comes the push to 50,000, and your money is contributing significantly to its own growth. Then comes the push to 100,000, and you can ease up a little because your money is working almost as hard as you are. And beyond that, the curve steepens dramatically. Your money works harder than you ever could, and financial freedom waits for you. But none of that happens without surviving the flat part of the curve. None of that happens without crossing that first 20,000 threshold. Understanding both the power of compound interest and the difficulty of getting it is the essence of understanding a great many things. Now you understand, and the question is what you're going to do about it. If there's something you really want to accomplish, don't wait. Time is the essential ingredient in compounding, and every year you delay is a year of growth you'll never get back. Start now. Put something aside. Avoid stupidity. Keep learning. Be patient.